Hello and welcome back to my channel. You're watching What Helen Reads and I'm Helen, and today I've got my Q2 roundup for you. So as we're now in July, I thought what I'd do is look back on the second quarter of the year, so April, May and June, and just do a bit of a summary in terms of what I've read, my favourites from the quarter, and just cover off some stats because we all love some scores on the doors. So in terms of the stats then for the second quarter, I read 40 books in total that came to 14,086 pages, which was an average of about 154 pages per day. Of those that I read, 2 were ARCs, 6 were audiobooks, 3 were ebooks, and then 29 were downloads from Kindle Unlimited. In terms of star ratings, 3 of the books were 3 stars, 28 were 4 stars, and I actually had 9 5-star reads in the second quarter, which was absolutely fantastic, and really pleased to get that number. In terms of the genre then of the books that I read, I had 5 alien romances, 2 billionaire romances, 7 contemporary romances, 2 dark romances, 13 mafia romances, 1 MC romance, 1 Omega verse, 6 paranormal, 2 sports romances and 1 fantasy romance. Then when I went through the tropes, there was lots of different tropes, but the ones that really sort of stood out, and I had more of these than the others, were age gap romances, cap to captive, road trips, second chance, fake relationships, and also fated mates as well. Okay, so now I'm going to get into the books that I rated 5 stars, and there were 9 of them in total. So the first 5-star read I had in the second quarter of the year was Resting Witch Face by Juliette. This one is a paranormal romance, and it was book 5 in the Stay a Spell series, where there were 6 books in total, and all 6 books are now available to read. I absolutely love this series as a whole, but Resting Witch Face was definitely as far as I'm concerned, was definitely the best book in the series. I absolutely loved it. And in this one we followed Jules and Ruben, and it was definitely a second chance romance, and they went on a bit of a road trip as well, so I love this one. So Stay a Spell series is based in New Orleans. It's set around the Savoy sisters, and Jules is the head of the Savoy sisters, who are a group of witches. So Jules heads up the supernatural community in New Orleans, and she's in charge, mainly because she's one of the most powerful witches you can be, which is the fact that she's a siphon. So she can siphon away the powers from other supernatural creatures, which makes her very powerful, obviously, and ensures that she can enforce the rules, and that other paranormal creatures are actually, quite scared of her. So that's Jules. And then we have Ruben, and he's in charge of the vampires. So he heads up the vampires in New Orleans. He is in fact a vampire himself. And Jules and Ruben had a relationship with each other about 12 years prior to the start of this book. And they were madly in love with each other. But Jules actually had to make some difficult decisions because of her position in the New Orleans paranormal community and the fact that she was a siphon, and Ruben broke her trust, and she felt that she couldn't be with him if she wanted to keep her place at the table. And of course they've both been pining for each other all of that time, and now as we get to Resting Witch Phase, as a lot of the stories developed in this series, Ruben and Jules finally get a chance to be together again, and Ruben very much helps her spearheading a cause that sees them going on a road trip and spending a lot of time in close proximity together, and they get the opportunity to talk through the past, what happened, and how things could potentially be different moving forward. So like I say, I absolutely love this one. It was the right balance of their found family, the family feeling that the rest of Stay a Spell series has. It's a very magical and colourful world. It's very cosy and warm, and just a nice place to be. But also there is a suspenseful element in this. There are some bad paranormal creatures that are out to maybe get them. Not necessarily get them, but they don't agree with the cause that Jules and Ruben are on, and maybe going to try and stop them from delivering what they want to deliver. So there is a little bit of danger, a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of suspense in this one, and so I thought it was a really, really good all-round book that I absolutely loved, and I'm not ashamed to say it also made me cry in places as well. So the next 5-star read for that month was Savage Tracker by Maggie Cole, and this one is book 5 in the Mafia Wars series. So obviously it's a Mafia Wars, it's a Mafia romance, and in this one we're following the Ivanov family. So it's a Russian Mafia story. It's got some BDSM elements in this one. It is an age gap, and this one I read as an audiobook, and it was narrated brilliantly by Wen Ross and Kai Kennicott. So in this one we're following Odette and Selena. So Odette is the final Ivanov member of the family that we're following before we switch over to the Irish team, and Odette is their tracker. So basically he is the best at tracking down people that they need to find, digging up dirt on people, and sort of basically almost stalking, but like tracking them, making sure that they're being followed, gathering all the dirt on them and all that sort of good stuff. And Selena is a character that we've started to meet in some of the other books, and is actually the client of Cora, who is has her book. She's a heroine from book 3, and she's a lawyer, and she is helping Selena to divorce her husband. And Selena has had a very, very difficult marriage. She is Greek by birth, and she met her husband while he was on holiday. He absolutely swept her off her feet, took her back to America with him. They got married. Her family disowned her as a result, and he turned out to be not a great guy. In fact, he was extremely abusive towards her and forced her into her slave dom relationship, or slave master relationship, where he was extremely brutal to her and basically tortured her, kept her in a cage, that kind of thing. And she was married to him for about 10 years until she got the opportunity to escape and leave him. Now he is an absolute psychopath. His name is Jack. He's trying to track her down, get her back, but Cora has been helping her with the divorce, trying to keep her safe, and as a result Sergei offered her an apartment in one of their accommodation buildings, and Odette also happens to live in this apartment building, and he's been asked by Sergei to keep an eye on Selena. Now she very much sticks to the building. She doesn't really leave the house because she's too afraid that her husband's going to find her, but she does spend a lot of time on the rooftop where there is an outdoor space where she likes to go and read and make notes and things, and that's where she notices Odette for the first time, because he also goes up there to spend a bit of time up there and to exercise, and they very much form a relationship together. Odette becomes very protective of her, and as he learns more, he helps her with a lot of stuff. He helps her to get her independence. Selena is going through quite a tough time though, because she has been in this abusive relationship and she's been in this master-slave relationship, but she craves being dominated by somebody, and she is very confused about why she would feel that she wants to do this after such a traumatic marriage with her husband. She starts to think, oh, am I mad? Why am I craving someone to dominate me? I definitely don't want to go back to that slave master relationship, but there's something about it that is drawing me back and I want to go there. And so she attempts to go to a BDSM club, but it is not a very good one. And when Odette realises where she's gone, he's very, very angry, goes into the club, gets her out, and they sort of form this relationship where he is very much a dominant himself, and he says to her, you're not going about it in the right way. I will help you. I will teach you what you need to know to be safe. I'll teach you the rules of the game, and I will basically train you to be a submissive, and I will be your dom for a short period of time until you're confident to find your own dom and understand the rules and make sure that no one will hurt you and that you don't make the wrong choices. And so this is very much how their relationship starts. So it's a very, very interesting relationship. I love the way Maggie Cole has written this. Selena also goes for counselling as well with a specialist who specialises in this sort of thing, and there is a lot of healing that is done through BDSM, but the relationship that Odette and Selena have together is absolutely beautiful. I absolutely love this one, and it is one of my favourites from the whole 10-book series. So would highly recommend. The next one that I rated 5 stars was The Danger You Know by Lily White, and this is a dark romance, and it's sort of like a stalker assassin sort of romance. So basically the main hero is Ari, and he's actually an assassin for hire, and he has actually killed Adeline's father. And Adeline doesn't know this, but basically the night that he kills her father, because he's commissioned to do so, no one is supposed to be in the house, but Adeline is actually in the house, and as he's leaving she discovers that her father is dead on the floor, and she's obviously distraught. And Ari, instead of just fleeing and not looking back, he looks back, sees her from the shadows, sees how distraught she is, and then basically proceeds to become obsessed with her and stalk her. Now when he first knows of her, when he first kills her father, she is a young girl and not of age, and at first there's nothing sexual or weird in his obsession and stalking. It's very much to keep an eye on her, to keep her safe. And as she grows up very, very angry and bitter, and she lashes out and she goes into a bit of a destructive cycle. So she hangs out with the boyfriends that are not at all good for her. She drinks a lot, she parties a lot, and very much, like I say, goes into this destructive kind of cycle. And Ari is always keeping an eye on her, watching her, and unbeknownst to her, he's got her out of a number of difficult situations, has disposed of and assassinated people that have been intending to hurt her or who have hurt her as punishment. And when she finally comes of age and she grows into being a woman, Ari realises that maybe he has feelings for her beyond just this protective feeling that he has towards her. But Ari is still content to let her live her life, and he watches as she gets married to a man, and he kind of lets all this happen, and he's hoping then that he can take a step back because he no longer needs to protect her since she has a husband. But he still continues to keep a bit of an eye on her, and then realises that her husband maybe isn't treating her as well as he should be. And that is when Ari decides to take matters into his own hands, protect her from the husband, and then we go from somebody who's just stalking her and looking out for her to very much a captive situation. So like I say, I absolutely love this one. It's a very dark romance. I just thought it was absolutely fantastic and really well written. You really understand Ari's motivations and what's happened. And you know, Adeline goes through a lot, you know, of character development, but there's also a very interesting friend that Ari has that's kind of been helping him, keeping an eye on her all these years. So she's got more than one protector, yeah, it's just, I think it's fantastic how it kind of all ends up, and kind of what happens. But it's definitely got the edge of darkness and danger that I kind of love in a dark romance. So would highly recommend. The next one that I loved was Stolen by a Sinner by Michelle Hurd, and this is a mafia romance. It's also a bit of an age gap and another sort of captive arrangement, particularly in the early part of this book. In this one we are following Gabriel, who's head of the Turkish mafia, and then Lara. This book itself is book 3 in the Sinner series, which I've absolutely loved so far, but this one I did give 5 stars to. So Gabriel was not anywhere near to being part of the Turkish mafia when he was a young boy, but basically his parents were murdered by I believe it was the head of the Greek mafia, because they couldn't pay his protection money or wouldn't sell the restaurant that they owned to him or something like that, and so Gabriel's parents were killed, and then he set out very much to get revenge for the murder of his parents, and made sure that he became a very powerful man and worked his way up to be head of the Turkish mafia. And he is been desperately seeking revenge on the kind of his enemy for many years, and he finally gets an opportunity to storm kind of like the mansion, the house where this enemy lives, and Lara happens to be kind of a slave / housekeeper in this house. She was taken when she was very young. She's been working for the head of the Greek mafia for a long time, but he doesn't treat his staff well at all, and she is basically a slave and trapped there. with no real choices and just a horrible, horrible existence. And when Gabriel kind of storms this house hoping to kill his enemy, he actually manages to shoot Lara by accident, so she gets caught in the crossfire, and the enemy gets away, but Lara is there on the floor and bleeding, and he decides that he's going to take her captive, hopefully get a doctor to bring her back to health, and if she lives then he's going to interrogate her to find out what she knows about her boss, to see if he can use that information to ultimately get, you know, bring him down. So at first, like I say, it's very much a captive situation, but she's very sick, so he has to nurse her back to health. And I just absolutely love this couple. Lara was so sweet, but not at all, and she was super sweet and innocent, but she wasn't at all a pushover. And Gabriel was so nice to her. There were so many sweet and tender moments between them, and he definitely gave her a lot of space to grow as a person, to come to terms with her new living arrangements, and ultimately, you know, their relationship went from there. But I thoroughly enjoyed this one, absolutely loved it. Love Michelle Hurd's writing. So the next one I gave 5 stars to was A Deal with the Devil by Elizabeth O'Rourke. It's book 1 in the Grumpy Devils series, and this was very much a rom-com as far as I was concerned, and it was kind of like, it's kind of written as enemies to lovers, but they were never enemies. I would say they're frenemies to lovers. And we're following Hayes and Tarly. So Hayes is plastic surgeon to the stars, kind of lives in LA, and he is very much a man about town, very much a ladies' man, but he's a once and done kind of guy. He's got a different woman every night of the week, but he always wakes up and kicks them out and never sees them again. So he's got a bit of a reputation. And Tarly, as a result, doesn't think too much of him. She's heard about his reputation, thinks he's just a ladies' man, thinks he's, you know, splashing his cash around because he's very wealthy, not treating women too well, and she's not too happy about that. But Tarly has a best friend, and the best friend is actually Hayes' personal assistant, and this best friend needs to have about 6 weeks off work because he's going to Spain to adopt a child, and so they are looking for a temporary replacement to be Hayes' assistant while he's away in Spain. And he begs Tarly to do the job, and at first she's very resistant because she doesn't want to go and work for Hayes, but in the end she desperately needs the money, so she agrees. And then what happens from there is so funny. I've said before, when I kind of talked about this in one of my wrap-up videos, when I talked about this book before, it very much reminded me of a cross between you know, the types of films like The Ugly Truth and What's Your Number, where the main characters have such great banter between them. It was really back and forth banter. They ultimately grow to be friends and very respectful of each other, and there's lots of funny comedic moments throughout, and pretty much every scene sees them together, and so it very much, you spend a lot of time with a couple as a couple, and as we go through the story, more and more things happen that kind of brings them together, and ultimately they get their happy ever after. So this book, you know, absolutely made me smile throughout. From the very first page, I was loving this one. I was laughing along, grinning along, and very much enjoyed their relationship and the banter between them. So would highly recommend if you want something light-hearted and fun. Then the next one I read as an audiobook actually, and it was another reread for me, but I rated it 5 stars, was Don't Kiss the Bride by Carian, and the audiobook was narrated by Desiree Ketchum and Aidan Snow. And this one is kind of a small town age gap sort of romance, and it's a marriage of convenience. So in this one we are following Lucky, and he is our hero, and Skylar. Now there's about a 15-year age gap between these two. Skylar is 18 years old, but she is in the final year of high school. She's actually a year older than the rest of her classmates because she was put back a year due to ill health, and she's had a very difficult upbringing and childhood. Her mother is a hoarder, and as a result their house is in not great condition. The house is rammed to the gunnels with things that her mother has bought, and she is forced to lock herself into her bedroom. She gets in and out of the house via her window, and she doesn't have access to the bathroom or the kitchen in the house anymore, so she has a small refrigerator in her bedroom, eats what she can from there, and showers at the school gym. So she is living in a very difficult situation, but this has been going on for a number of years, and because of that, when she was a child, she developed an eating disorder because a lot of the food that she ate was either stale or old or rotten, and it very much made her sick. And so she avoids quite a lot of food as a result, and has, like I say, an eating disorder where she can't eat certain textures or certain types of food. This means that she's quite malnourished and isn't getting all the nutrients she needs, and over the years her health has very much declined. But she can't afford medical insurance and to get any kind of help for this. And this is kind of what really brings her into Lucky's path, because Lucky is a construction worker. He owns his own building company, and he happens to be working on a house next door to the school where Skylar goes to school. And he notices her arriving at school, coming in and out of school, and the first encounter they really have is when her car breaks down, it won't start, and he offers her a lift home, but also takes her car, helps her out, take her car to a garage to get it fixed. And then several other interactions happen, and also one day she faints on the side of her walk, and he goes to help her and ends up taking her to hospital and staying with her while she's in hospital. And as a result of this, he learns a lot more about her upbringing, where she lives, and her medical condition, and feels very, very sympathetic towards her and desperately wants to help her. Now, he has a deep-seated need to help people because his own sister ran away when she was 16. He doesn't know if she's dead or alive, but he feels very much like it's his fault and he could have done more. And so in some ways, by offering to help Skylar, he's kind of atoning for his past sins, and he is absolutely doing it for altruistic purposes. There's no hidden agenda, and ultimately he offers to marry her and become her husband, so that she can benefit from his health insurance and she can get the help she needs. And so while it's a strange offer of support, it's absolutely believable, and Skylar agrees to do this, and they live, she lives in the guest room in his house. There's nothing untoward going on at all, but because of his generosity, she's able to get her life back on track, starting to sort her health out, go to a counsellor to help with her, her eating disorder, and start to turn her life around. The thing is, they are both absolutely fantastic people. Their characters are absolutely wonderful, and of course their friendship turns into more. This is a very slow burn romance, and one of the reasons it's slow burn is because Lucky in particular has a big issue with their age gap. He very much is worried that people will think that he's taken advantage of her, like this old man has come in and he's like groomed her or something, and that he's very much taken advantage of a poor young girl in need. And when other people start to find out that they are in fact married, they get a lot of comments about the age gap, and a close friend of Skylar's actually has quite a big go at him about it. This is kind of like what constantly stalls their relationship, really, because he's got to work through a lot of issues, but also Skylar is dealing with quite a lot as well from a mental health and health perspective. But it's absolutely brilliant. Carian does age gaps so well. It's a fantastic slow burn romance, and I would highly recommend, and thoroughly enjoyed the reread and the audiobook for this one as well. Now the next one I gave 5 stars to was another fun read. It was Puck Me Secretly by Odette Stone, also another audiobook. It was a reread, and this is an audiobook narrated by Madeline Dower, and it's a sports romance. It's book 1 in the Vancouver Wolves series. And in this one, in fact, following Max and Rory. So Rory is the daughter of the GM for the Vancouver Wolves, and she is on her way back to Vancouver to do an internship with her dad. Now she really, really doesn't want to, but he's been pressuring her into going to work for him, because he wants to hand over the business to her ultimately when he retires. But she really is not interested, and she doesn't really want to do it, but she has agreed to do it for a year to placate her father. And so she's on this plane heading back to Vancouver, And also on the plane, and in fact the person sitting next to her is Max, and Max is just being transferred from another team. He's recently been sacked from another team actually, and his last chance to carry on his ice hockey career is to go to the Vancouver Wolves, who have picked him up. While they're on this plane, they're sitting next to each other, like I said. There is a lot of turbulence, there is a problem with the plane, and for all intents and purposes the plane is gonna crash. Now Rory is really scared, but Max absolutely helps her through her panic attack, takes good care of her after the plane has crashed, but they're safe, and she's sort of fainted. He picks her up, takes her out of the rubble, and they spend a night together in the hotel room while they're waiting for the airline to sort them out and get them on their way. And they absolutely have amazing chemistry together. Rory and Max are so good with each other. Max has taken such good care of Rory, but she's going off to be an intern, he's going off to try and repair his career, and so they kind of part ways at that point. Unbeknownst to them, they're going to meet each other again, and in just a few days time they both turn up for work and realise that they know each other and who each other is, and it's a very awkward situation because it's Rory's first day, and her dad very much wants her to assert authority over the players and to make sure that they all know she's in charge, and that just because she's a woman that they should absolutely respect her. And because Max has been kicked off his last team for fighting, he's thought to be a bit of a troublemaker, and Rory's father makes her basically have a go at Max in front of all his teammates, and it's all a bit awkward because obviously she knows who he is, he's been so good to her, and yet she's forced to be not nice towards him. But Max doesn't take this to heart. He knows it's not her fault, but they then kind of continue to have a relationship together, but it's a bit of a taboo relationship, it's a bit of a workplace romance. Rory's father would not approve at all if he found out that she was dating Max or being with Max, and so I really like that element where they are friends, they are together, they see each other at work all the time. Rory really tries to help Max out with his career, and they have an amazing chemistry and attraction towards each other, so of course their romance goes from there. It's all very secretive and taboo, and there are other people in this book who are trying to keep them apart, but it's actually a fantastic and fun read and would highly recommend. Just two more to go. So we've got Bright Like Midnight by Julia Wolfe, which is book 2 in the Savage You series. It's contemporary college romance. In this one we're following Zadie and Amir. Now we met Amir in book 1 of this series, and Amir is the brother of the local head of a criminal organisation / drug dealer, and Amir is the brother, but he works for his brother, and he's kind of the person who goes around collecting the debt. So if anyone owes this guy any money or disrespects him in any way, then Amir is the person that is sent around to collect the debt or rough up the person who has wronged his brother in some way. So although he goes to college and is a college student, everyone is very scared of Amir. He is very dark and dangerous, and will not hesitate to punish someone if they disrespect his brother. And we met him in book 1 because Helen, who was a heroine from that book, she was unable to pay back some money to his brother when it was sort of payday, if you like. And so Amir went round to scare her into giving him the money, and he basically spends a night with Zadie, who's her roommate, as a bit of collateral. So he's like, you go out and get the money, and I'll stay here with Zadie, and that will basically give me insurance that you'll definitely come back, because otherwise I will do something horrible to Zadie. So of course Helen wants to protect her roommate, so she does what she's told. And we know from book 1 that Amir and Zadie had a moment together. So while she's sort of his captive during this one evening while they're waiting for Helen to come back, they definitely have a moment. But we don't really know what went on until we get to this book, Bright Like Midnight, where we find out more about what happened that night between them, and the fact that Zadie has definitely got an attraction to Amir. She knows he's dangerous, and so they kind of go their separate ways. But 6 months later, Zadie is in a bit of a pickle because she's got a stalker, She is really scared, she's not sure what to do, and she kind of seeks out Amir to help her and protect her. And through a series of happenings, shall I say, Amir enters into a deal with her where she gets to be his slave until the end of the semester, where she has to go around cooking and cleaning for him, but in exchange he's going to keep her safe and protected, and so their romance kind of goes from there. So I absolutely love this one. Amir was absolutely the hero I really like. You know, he's kind of like dark and intense and broody, and you don't know, and he's a little bit dangerous. You don't know how good he's going to be to the heroine, but obviously he is going to be absolutely perfect for Zadie, yeah, they're such a sweet couple. But also, what I like about this series as a whole is that the supporting cast of characters are absolutely brilliant as well. The friendship groups are great, and you get to really know the characters, love the characters, and how they interact with each other, and it absolutely makes you want to go on and read the next book in the series. But Bright Light Midnight is my favourite of the series so far, and 5 stars. And then finally, I read Reckless by Elsie Silver, which I also gave 5 stars to. And I absolutely love this one. This is book 4 in the Chestnut Springs series, and in this one we're following Theo, who is a bull rider, and Winter, who is Summer's sister, and Summer was the heroine from book 1. So we've been following Winter for a while. She's not a particularly nice person. She is estranged really from her sister. They don't get on at all. But she is recently separated from her husband, and she's now come to Chestnut Springs to start a new life and also to rebuild bridges with her sister. And on one such night, when she goes to family dinner at Chestnut Springs, Theo also happens to be going there as well. They get into a bit of banter, they get into a bit of flirting, and then when Theo helps her get back to her hotel room, one thing leads to another, and they spend the night together. As a result of this, Winter gets pregnant and ends up having the baby, but because of circumstances which I won't go into, Theo doesn't know that he's a father and misses out on the pregnancy and the birth of his child. And when he finally comes back to Chestnut Springs and he realises that he's the father of Winter's child, he is absolutely devastated. You know, it's very much a story about how they both come to terms with what's happened, and how Theo you know, reacts to this information, and how they can start a co-parenting relationship between them, and if indeed they're going to take it to the next level. I absolutely loved it. I love Elsie Silver's writing. I love this community that she's created, and again, it's another book where there is a wonderful cast of characters that you absolutely love, and you come to know very well, and you want to spend more time with them. But Theo was absolutely a fantastic hero. He did absolutely all the right things, and I'm not ashamed to say that this one made me cry. Theo was perfection, so absolutely would recommend. So there you have it. That's my Q2 roundup with all the 5-star reads I read in April, May and June. I really hoped you liked this summary. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, remember to subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you next time. Bye. It's Lucky and Skyline, that's it. So I covered Resting Witch Face up to, I would highly recommend, best one in the series, blah blah blah. Okay, so I might as well start that one from scratch. Let's go from the top. But I read 39 books in June. In total, that was 3. Earlier this year I did my Q1.